Hello, and welcome back to another Captain Wolf Clay tutorial. Today, we'll be creating Colette from Brawl Stars. She is one of my favorite brawlers, both mechanically and visually, so I thought it'd be pretty fun to create her for today's tutorial. I hope you enjoy the rest of the video, and you are able to follow along well. Well, without further ado, let's head over to the clay desk. Welcome back to the clay desk. To start off today, we are creating the puck. What's the puck, you may ask? Well, it's a piece of clay that looks like a puck. I mean, it's pretty simple. But what it actually is, it's the base of the model that helps the model stand on its own without tipping over. This can also help the model not break by reducing the likelihood of it falling over. And so, for most of the models that I create, I like to create the puck because it protects the models a lot more and also creates some personality, since you can reflect the character's values in the puck itself. For Colette's puck, I'm creating the Star Park logo. Why? Well, because that's exactly where she works, so it makes sense. Also because I think Star Park is pretty cool. I think that sure, it may be hiding like one or two secrets, but like, what company doesn't? Yeah, I think it'd be pretty fun to go. All of the rides seem safe, and everything seems well maintained, and there seems to be no bad underlying secrets that they are hiding from the people that go there. And so I would love to visit one day because I think it would be a blast. To finish up the puck, recreate both the eyes and the smile and move them around to the right spot so that it reflects the actual logo for the part. For Colette's boots, we first create the bottom of the boot, and then we also create the top part separately, and then we combine them in order to get the general shape of how we want the boot to look. We can then further change the shape by simply molding it with our fingers and some tools in order to get the approximate shape that we want for it. Even though boots are an odd choice to fight in, they don't really stand out all that much, especially with Colette's outfit, which is a bunch of different mismatched parts that shouldn't work together in theory, but in reality, her whole outfit looks really good and everything blends very well, overall creating a really cool reflection of her character. For the soles of the boot, I roll out a flat piece of clay and then cut out the shape of the bottom of the boot so that I can then attach a flat piece of clay to the underside of each boot. This process creates better looking soles than simply cutting into the bottom of the boot, and so that's why I chose to do this for Colette's boots. After attaching them, we simply have to smooth them out to fit the shape of the boots, and then we are done with the bottoms. We then round out the tops of the boots so that we can more easily fit the legs into them later. We then check the size and the placements of the boots on the puck to ensure that we get the spots that we want and the correct size that we want to the puck itself. Next, we create Colette's legs. For the legs, we create two round cylinders that were about the same size. We then change the shape so that it reflects what we want for the final model, and then we also create indentations behind the knees to really sell the idea that they are bent legs rather than just long jelly beans. To connect the legs, I used a little piece of clay that I then kind of squished to really connect the legs together, and so that the hips were finally created. We then blended so that the hips didn't just simply look like a piece of clay in between two legs, but the blending didn't really matter all too much because in the final model, the hips will be hidden from view. After all that blending, we then try and stick the legs into the boots, but the legs prove to be a little bit too large. To solve this issue, we both reduce the size of the legs themselves and increase the size of the boots so that they can fit well. To mount the legs, we use little pieces of wire to help with the mounting, and then we simply put the legs onto the little pieces of wire, and then we test if the legs will actually stick to the puck. For the stripes, I simply combined these three colors to get this beautiful pink that we use for the stripes on her legs. I then flattened a piece of the color, cut out strips of it, and then laid it over the legs. I tried to use one piece, but had to use two, so the sizes were about the same size instead of being perfectly symmetrical. We then mount the legs to exactly how we want them and how we want them to be cooked, and we simply do final touches onto the legs so that they look exactly how we want them to, since we can't change them after they cook. We then take the legs and put them onto a plate so that we could put it in the oven. We also flatten the puck a little bit more so that it is flat after cooking. Whoop, almost forgot. We have to put in a little piece of wire for the torso later. Now we can cook Colette. Colette's done cooking, or at least her legs are done cooking. I like to cook in sections for larger models so I can essentially save my progress, because as I work on the models later, it is very easy to mess up earlier parts if they're not cooked. The wire that we added works well as a support for the torso so that we can actually mount the part onto the cooked legs. For Colette's torso, I essentially created an underlying base shape of how I wanted the torso to look, and then I added a wrap around it to make clothes look better and well connected with each other. Another reason why I like Colette so much is simply because she is so different from all the other brawlers. Her attack mechanic requires you to know how much health the enemy brawler has, and the damage is variable based off of how much health they have. And so I really enjoy how every attack is different and how much you really have to think about like target priority or whatnot, and she feels very different because of how much damage she does and how much it actually changes based off of the health the brawlers have, which no other brawler in the game does anything close to. As you can see here, I'm creating a gold ring thing. These appear so much on Colette's model that essentially I do the same exact process every time I create it, and I have to create it like, I don't know, 5 different times of different shapes. And so for the first one, which is this one, I was not exactly sure on exactly what to do, but later on I found out a really good method to create consistent and good looking golden ring thingies. I don't know what to call them, but you'll see them a lot in the model, and just know that the process is practically the same for every single one. So Colette's jacket has a bunch of little details that I try and get within this model. I don't think I got every single one, but I'm trying to replicate it the best I can. And so essentially, I believe that a lot of these different ideas on it, different details, are like in reference to a straight jacket, but I definitely could be wrong on that. But that's just what it looks like to me, and I thought that like the normal look combined with a straight jacket look is pretty cool. On the front of Colette's jacket, she actually has 2 little pins, and one of them is a little spike one, and the other one is a Piper one. And so here's the spike one, and he's so cute and so little, and he turned out really well, and I really like how cute he was. And then the other pin, I tried to make the Piper one, but it turned out horribly because it's really hard to make. And so I decided to simply just make the tick one because it was a lot easier. Also, the tick pin is also cool. So there we go. Not exactly perfect, but close enough. And then, to help make sure that people can know Colette's name while she's at the gift shop, she has a name tag. But this name tag's a little bit too small to try and write Colette on it, so I just put ... So here, we are creating holes so that we can attach the neck and arms more organically than if we just, tack them right on there. And so then we add some wiring so that it's a lot easier to actually mount the neck and arms, and so that they actually connect to the model after we cook it. We then take Colette's model to the oven again to save our progress. Colette's done cooking for now. Now we create her book, her diary that she keeps with her that you cannot ever see because she will not let you to put it nicely. And so for it we have to create the pages, and we then put the cover around the pages, which is a nice pretty pink. And so we cut out the shapes so that we can easily wrap it around the pages that we have. Even though we don't get to see what's exactly in her book, we can always guess what's in her book. And I think that she probably has pictures and signatures from all the brawlers that she likes, or maybe even all of the brawlers. And so she's simply, guarding her collection, because I'm sure that it is extremely extensive and required a lot of effort that she did in not weird ways at all. In game, you'll see certain things sticking out of the diary, and so one of the things that you could recognize is a little spike bookmark probably sticking out from the top. So yeah, I just add a cute little one that was practically the same process as the spike pin but flat. And then she has two other little things sticking out from the bottom, so I quickly add those, and that should be it for her pages. The outside bindings on her book have a different color, and so I brought in a nice pretty purple to use. And so because this is an actual latch, no one can actually open up the books and see these pages that we're cutting out inside of it. So then after that, we add even more straps to really make sure that no one can actually get into Colette's diary, because, that's her personal collection of not creepy things, and so she has the right to keep her bookmark, her adorable spike bookmark, to herself. And so on the outside of her diary is her pen, because you need a pen in order to actually write within a notebook. And so for the pen, we simply create a cylinder and add a cone to the end to create the main body. And then we flatten out a piece of clay to add to the top. And then for the last thing, we simply cut out a star shape from a little piece of clay so that it could resemble the Star Park logo-ish. And so then it's too hard to actually connect, so we just simply harden it so that we can glue it on later. And now to the oven real quick. While that is happening, we're going to create the arms. And for the arms, they are pretty loosey-goosey, simply because she has very loose sleeves on. So we don't really have to worry about any elbows or shoulders all that much. And so we simply use this beautiful blue for the arms that we're creating. At the end of her sleeves, she has cuffs that are this other beautiful shade of blue that we then simply create a cone shape for, and we try and attach to the main body. After, of course, we create a hole for the hands that we're going to put in later. So, I know what you're wondering. What happened to that Piper pen? Well, you see, it turned out so horribly that I really don't want to show you how bad it was. It it was not good. It's not good. And so I simply crushed that thing and did not decide to add the footage because it was too complicated and everything looked really bad, and it was not Piper. It was not Piper at all. Anyways, the items are now finally cooked. And so simply, we now glue the top part of the pen back on so that we can actually get the whole pen now. And so then we also glue the pen onto the book itself so that the pen won't move, and to make sure that Colette can always write in her diary no matter where she is. And so after that, we simply have to just keep holding the book there and letting the glue dry in the meantime. After the glue has dried, we now try and shape Colette's arms to where she looks like she's holding the book organically, but the book is a little bit too thick, so she does not hold it very organically, and that is something that I definitely need to try and work on for later models. And so Colette's sleeves have these little things that loop in and out of her sleeve, and so to add those details, we simply create the strips of blue clay to add on to both of the sleeves to match what her model in game looks like, and to try and get her sleeves to look more interesting and not as flat as they did without them. One thing that I've realized about Colette after working on making a clay model of her for so long is that her colors are actually really cool. Like, her main body is a completely different color from her sleeves. Like, her sleeves feel like they should be misplaced, but yet somehow they fit really well. And so I just find it so cool that so many different pretty colors can come together and be so different, but yet all work together very well within the same model. And so on Colette's sleeves, she has these bands around them that are probably to help keep the sleeves connected to her arm. But so we essentially take strips of the gray clay and wrap them around and add a little gold buckle to them. For Colette's hands, I resorted to this method of simply creating the basic shape that you want for the hand, where the index side is larger than the pinky side because, obviously the pinky's the smallest finger, and cut the thumb off separately. And so I essentially cut off the different pieces that I want, the different shapes that I want for the fingers, and then I just smooth them out because they are pretty rough after cutting. And so then the hands do not actually fit within the sleeves perfectly. And so since, you only see the fingertips, I eventually just cut it so you only see the fingertips. And it works. It looks like as if she has a whole hand in there, and I was really surprised with how well that turned out. And so for the final adjustments before she goes back into the oven, her sleeves have dangling pieces on them that also have these gold rings on them, which once again show up a lot. And so I simply add these and make them look like as if they're hanging, and then we take Colette to the oven. Colette's back from cooking again. And so now we actually start on the neck. And so she actually has these neck thingies, these rings around her neck. And so the first one is actually like a collar from like a collared shirt. And then her other one is, I'm not quite sure, but it is the same color as all the other bands that she has on her. So it probably is just another band that goes around the color that she has on her uniform. And so next, we create her necklace thingy. I think it's a necklace. But anyways, I've always thought it to be pretty. And so we simply create a little heart shape, and then we press into it with the end of our clay tools with like a little ball. And we press in black clay into it. And it turned out pretty well. And it represents what she has on in the game. And so simply, we create these connections for it, these like hook thingies that hook onto the necklace itself, and then we create another piece that connects it to the band that she has on her neck itself. And so then we press that in a bit so that it looks like it is wrapped around the little ring around her necklace thing. The next thing we make is her head and neck. And so the neck that we create is pretty small because she's wearing so much, we barely see her neck. And so then the head, we simply create divots for the eye sockets, which then in turn creates a bump in the center for the nose itself. And then we also create a nice chin. So for Colette's hair, we tried this new method that we've actually never done before, where we actually cut out different layers of the hair and put them over and under each other. And so for the back of the head, we created one giant piece of hair that came down to a ponytail. And then we added some bumps to make it look a little bit more like hair rather than a flat piece of clay. And then for all the other parts, we simply cut out the shapes of how they appeared in-game and then layered them over and underneath each other. One of the difficulties with this method is remembering what goes over and what goes underneath the band that goes over her head. And so the actual layering with all these different pieces was pretty tough to keep track of, but we kept at it, and the end result was surprisingly really good. And so for Colette's ponytail, we simply created this little band and added a buckle to it to make it more like an actual ponytail rather than a nub. And for the big band, we added the last and final giant ring that is the biggest one that we created, and we simply push it down on it so that it doesn't come off later. For her nose, we simply created a soft triangle shape and then cut it in half of where the hair was going to be, and then put it right in the correct spot. For her mouth, we did the giant grin that she has in a slightly off-white color, and then cut in the teeth into the actual shape. For the singular eye she had, we took a sphere of clay and then we pressed it and put it on so that we had a nice circle. Now we take Colette to the oven for her final cook. Colette's finally finished cooking, but she's actually not done yet. For the final touches on Colette, we actually draw in her eye and eyelashes very carefully using two hands on the pen to make sure we don't make any mistakes in this very delicate stage of the process. And then we are so close to finally seeing the finished product of our clay Colette model. We are now finally completely done with Colette. Thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. It would really mean a lot to me if you left a like, comment, and subscribe so that we can help this channel grow. And as always, be kind and have fun.